All right, today I would like to talk to keep moving forward with the sort of the trend that we've had. We want to speak about the imaging law of magic, the magical power of imaging or visualization, as it is sometimes called. And many of you know what this is, especially if you've been around the block at all or taken a witch's primer or any other kind of training in magic. And it's the ability to create images in the mind's eye and to be able to form astral substance using your imaginative powers in order to create or manifest on Earth, on the Earth plane, or in the visible realm. So it's one of the cornerstones of magic, and it's one place that a lot of people, I think, get tripped up because they feel like they can't visualize. So there's many different levels at work here, and we'll try to just cover some real basics, and we'll probably get into this more in depth in the apprenticeship program. But the idea is that you want to be able to train your imaging faculty to the extent that you can hold an image in great detail and allow yourself to use your imaging faculties to basically manipulate astral substance in order to give birth on the causal plane of that which you desire. So some ideas for how to develop that power are to start very softly and gently, always with yourself, to try to just work where you are. Now, of course, you can do exercises, and I know a lot of magical trainings are really into, visualize a square, visualize a circle, visualize a red circle, visualize a red square, and those types of exercises do have their merit. The problem that I find with those kinds of trainings is that people tend to get very bored and give up. So what I recommend is that, not that you shouldn't do those, because if you're inclined to do that kind of training, please do, because it, like I said, it does have merit if you can get enthused about it and keep up with it. What I recommend instead is that you start with what you want. It's much easier to visualize something that's interesting to you, and you'll realize that your ability to hold an image is actually a lot better than you think it is once you start looking at seeing yourself doing, being, and having the things that you really want. It's almost like you'll find that your imaginative or your imaging properties are hardwired to respond to desire. So if you can start with what it is that you really want and see yourself in a situation in which you're being, doing, or having that very thing. And I always recommend that you find a way to get to the end result of what you want. So for instance, if it's money that you're looking for, what would you do if you had the money that you're desiring? What would be like the first thing you would be doing? Would it be going to the bank, getting a bank receipt? Would it be talking to somebody about it? How would you know that you had this money? And rehearse basically that scene over and over like a loop in your mind, really getting into the feeling and the joy and the experience of it over and over again. A very small scene. It doesn't have to be very elaborate, but something over and over again, like making the deposit and getting your receipt and seeing the balance that you desire over and over again, or talking to somebody and hearing them say, "Wow, it's just wonderful how you are doing so well with money, and that how wealthy you've become." Something like that. Something that is meaningful to you over and over again, that you can play in your imaginative faculty, and it should get to the point where you are so thrilled with the image that you want to repeat it over and over and over and over again. And that's a great place to be. And you'll notice that when you do that, that the worries that you had about that topic have temporarily at least ceased to exist, because you have so convinced yourself for even a moment that you have what you desire, that you no longer are worried about not having it, because you realize that it's really there. And that's usually a good place to just complete your visualization once you can get to that little click. Now, some people still insist that they can't do that they can't visualize. So that's fine. You don't have to be able to see things necessarily in order to do this, as long as you can have the feeling of what it is that you are after. That's oftentimes enough. But remember that, and this is almost the topic of a separate discussion, is that until you feel comfortable with your powers of being able to hold an image in your mind, is to use symbols to represent that thing. And this is where things like candle magic come in handy. So let's stick with the topic of you needing or desiring money. So let's say that you needed, like, I don't know, $300 for a specific thing, or I don't know what it is. You needed to pay a bill, and it cost $300, and the bill was coming due. And so what I would say is, how would you find a way to replay an image over and over in your mind where you are paying that bill and you're so happy and you're thrilled, and you see the check going out, and you know that it's been paid. But if you don't think you can do that, then what you could do instead is find a candle that represents you, like with an astral color, a color of candle that represents, maybe if you're a Sagittarius, so you have that might be an orange candle or a purple candle. I mean, it depends on what system you're using, or it could just be your favorite color. Okay, so let's say you have a purple color representing you, and you sign your name on that candle, and then you have, let's say, a green candle, and then you put you write $300 on that candle. You inscribe that like with a nail. And for every day for, let's say, 7 days, you are focusing. When you light the candle, you say, this candle is no longer wax. This candle is me. And then you light the green candle. This candle is no longer wax. This is the $300 that is coming my way. And every day you bring that candle a little bit closer and a little bit closer to you, until by the last day it's touching. And you say, that the $300 is there and it is done, and you let those candles burn down and out by themselves, and you know that you have just imaged what it is that you desire, but you used a symbol. Or maybe you could get a picture of $300 bills, three $100 bills, even from the internet, or clip it out of a magazine or something, so that you have an image of that, and that you could put it on your altar, so that you could visualize that every day. And then maybe you have a picture of yourself, and instead of the candles, you could bring the $300 closer and closer, the picture of $300 closer and closer to the picture of you, so that you can see yourself being drawn closer and closer to you. So you can use symbolism on your altar as a means by which to build the imaging faculty. But once you get to the point of being able to use the images in your mind, it's very powerful, and you don't need as much of the symbolism on your altar. It's not that you can't use it. You can do both. Some people never get rid of the altar type of symbolic work because they find it enjoyable and fun, and that's what's important, is it should be enjoyable and fun. So when you do work on imaging in your mind, even if you're using these other symbolic gestures, take a moment and just do your best to rehearse the scene in your mind. And when you do so, you don't want to see an image of yourself off in the distance doing the thing. You want to put yourself in the image. You want to be, it's like in the first person. You want to be the person in your image, having, doing, or being the thing that you're desiring, so that so that it becomes real to your deep mind. Because remember, a lot of what we're doing magically has to deal with the causative plane and astral substance. And the causative plane and the astral substance have their activity, the activity of those planes are in the deeper parts of your mind. So if there are belief systems in the deeper parts of your mind that are antithetical to that which you desire, you need to convince that part of your mind that you are doing, being, or having the thing that you want right now in real time. Now you can start to incorporate the other things that we've been talking about. You can use chants or incantations or affirmations aloud as you're visualizing these things in order to focus your mind. You can write down what it is that you want and feel as though you're charging that piece of paper with the image of what you want, and carry that piece of paper with you. Like maybe stick it in your wallet until you get that $300. And then once the $300 has come your way, then you just tear it up and you say, thank you very much. And then it's over. You don't need it anymore. So as with any kind of magical operation, you don't want to wrestle with the problem. You want to have a calm mind, calm, relaxed, almost hypnotic and drowsy, trance-like state of mind where you are gently and easily seeing the thing that you want coming to pass in the present moment. And if any resistance from your mind comes up during that, don't fight against it. Just relax and let it be what it is, and continue your visioning over and over and over again. Continue chanting your incantation, and little by little, you'll notice that it starts to neutralize the negation that your mind is coming up with, and that is the magical process in action. You're little by little lessening your resistance to being, doing, or having this thing. And that's what you want. But you don't lessen your resistance by fighting against the resistance. You do it by becoming extremely indifferent to the resistance and keeping your mind focused on what it is that you do want and letting the other take care of itself. It's sort of like if you were planting a crop of grain and weeds come up, you don't have to worry about the weeds. You just keep the grain healthy, and the grain will kill the weeds. And the same thing goes with the seeds that you're planting. Those seeds are so strong, they will overcome the weeds by themselves. You don't have to worry about killing the weeds in the time that you're working your spell. If there are major resistances that are coming up in your life, you can work on them, as we talked about in a previous discussion, during the waning moon as a banishing type of thing, but not during your actual spell casting. When you're envisioning something, you want to just gently, say thank you for sharing to the negative thoughts that come up, and keep your mind focused on what you want. And little by little, you'll notice that you stop having resistances, and you start seeing results happen very quickly, actually. Now, as with all magic, you want to include in your operation a sense that you are asking your deep mind, or if you work with deities or spirit guides, angels, Jesus, God, whatever, or just your higher self, you want to ask for intuitive leads. You want to ask for obvious intuitive leads as to appropriate actions to take. And this is something that I think that people forget to do. And as a result of not doing this, they don't keep themselves open to being led. They forget that sometimes what happens is, okay, let's take the $300. You've asked for an intuitive lead, And let's say one day you are just, for whatever reason, you're compelled to go down this street that you normally wouldn't have taken. And lo and behold, you find $300 in the gutter. All right. I know that seems like a silly, extreme case that wouldn't happen, but you'd be surprised how sometimes things like that do happen. But even though most of the time it may not be like that, most of the time your manifestations will happen in a very mundane sort of way that seems like it might have happened without magic. Like if you're a waiter, maybe, and you happen to, be at work one day and 3 people call in sick and you get slammed and you're really, really busy and you keep being given more tables than you normally get. And it's really hard work, but you leave there with an extra $300 that night, So stuff like that happens. But do ask for leads. Do ask for that as part of your operation, because that way when you are open and receptive you'll get signs. I mean, I've done that, and I've been driving and I will get a sign, a literal sign, like a billboard. I will drive by and I will see a billboard and it will say exactly what I should do. Or I will be stuck behind this car that has this bumper sticker that says something, that is an obvious sign for me. Sometimes I'll just get an intuitive lead. Most of the time, though, it's what I would say compulsive. I don't even realize, and most of us don't even realize what it's happening. We just, for some reason, we are compelled to do this or compelled to do that, and we happen to, be with a person we wouldn't normally be with, who happens to be an integral part of the manifestation process for us. So the other thing is, regardless of what kind of magic you're doing, and I know I've said this many times, but it's worth reiterating, is when you are done with the operation, you need to just forget it. When you're not doing the magic, you need to just not think about it. Never, ever have I been in a magical situation where the manifestation comes when I'm looking over my shoulder wondering when it's happening. Never. It always comes when I'm not thinking of it, when I least expect it. So I have to not expect it. If that's the fastest way for me to get results, is to just go get busy doing something that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, what I'm working on. Go play cards, go to the gym, go take a yoga class, go to a party, go to the movies, something. Just get your mind off of it, and don't keep looking for it. Don't keep looking for results. Just train yourself to just forget about it. Just forget about it. I promise you, it will happen. It will come. It will let itself be known. There will be you won't miss it. It knows where to go. It knows what it's doing. And always, not always, but usually, many times, sometimes no, oftentimes, when the results happen, I will look at it and I'll think, never in a million years would I have come up with that myself. I would have never. That is ingenious. I am not that smart. I would have never come up with that solution. That is so freaking amazing how that happened. And it's because I just let it go. I let the genius mind of the universe work it out for me. Just like the farmer plants the seeds, works the soil, waters, and harvests. Doesn't worry about how the seeds come up, doesn't worry about how photosynthesis works, doesn't worry about anything. All a farmer does is work. Now, it's easier to vision your way through something than to try to figure it out yourself. And that's the same idea here, is because you're not smart enough. You're not smart enough to figure it out. So the farmer that visions, that uses magic, will always have better crops than the farmer that doesn't use magic. The business person who does magic will always have better results than the business person that doesn't use magic, whether they know that that's what they're doing or not, whether they call it that or not. A lot of people do magic and they don't even know they're doing magic. Because if you have a problem in front of you, or a desire or something, and you can see the end result and then forget about it, your deep mind will compel you into certain directions much more easily than if you're thinking about it and worried about it. In fact, if you're worried about it, you're not open and you can't be compelled in the right ways because you're obsessing over something else. But if you're not thinking about it and your mind is open, then your deep mind can compel you to do this or that or the other thing so that it can work itself out. It can come to pass. So it's so important that when you're faced with a problem, rather than you trying to figure it out, you see the result that you want and then you let it go. And then you do each indicated step as you're compelled to do them. So that doesn't mean I'm going to vision my taxes being done and then by magic they will be done and I don't have to do them. No. What that means is when I am envisioning my taxes being done in a way that's very easy and relaxing and profitable for me, then it always is very easy for me. Something always comes my way that makes it that I wouldn't have known about, some new tax law that I wouldn't have known about that causes me to get a write-off that I wouldn't have been aware of, or I will be compelled to go to a different accountant maybe that year, or whatever, or I get a better bookkeeper. I mean, who knows? But if I do that, if I vision my way through it, I still have to do the taxes. I still have to file, but I will always get more money back as a result of visioning my way through it than if I hadn't, right? But that doesn't mean I don't have to, still do the footwork. The person that does a money spell and just sits and eats bonbons and doesn't and expects it to just show up is not really listening to their intuitive leads. They're not allowing themselves to be compelled by their deeper mind, because usually what happens is when you do a money spell, you're and you literally do forget about it. Like I said, you will start meeting people and coming into contact with people, or getting these like really interesting ideas for new businesses, and all kinds of stuff will happen, and just all kinds of just things will happen and come your way where it's obvious what's the next step to take. And each time it's right because it's actually quite fun. Even the taxes. I know that sounds impossible, but even the taxes. If you vision your way through the taxes can be fun. It's weird, but it's true. It's the most horrible things in life, if you vision a successful outcome, become pleasurable. And you just think, wow, I'm so glad I found this technique, because you're never going to stop having problems. You're never going to stop having desires. You're never going to stop learning. Okay, so that's a good thing. This life is always going to give you much more to learn. So you may as well have tools that you can learn better with and get through your lessons in ways that are joyful and profitable, so that you learn in a way that it's something that's substantial for you, rather than some hard, awful lesson. The students in college that enjoy their classes and enjoy their homework and enjoy what they're doing, they're much better students, and they get better grades, and they have better careers than the ones that drudge through it. And the same thing with all of us. We're all students. So use the power of visioning for your goals and getting your lessons learned and getting through problems. And I hope this was interesting for you. And it's always such an honor to speak with you. I'm very grateful to all of my listeners, and I love hearing from you. And I know that sometimes it takes me a while to get back to you, but I do love hearing from you, and I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to communicate with me. It means a great deal to me. And get on our discussion forum, and there's a lot of great people on there, and look forward to some exciting new things happening. It's a pleasure. Much love, many blessings. Blessed be.